Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Talk with Rick. Beautiful February in the ice here in Oregon. We have an awesome agenda today. As always, please put your questions in the chat and I'll get as many answers to the questions that you have. And going through the agenda just real quick, we have a Black History Month discussion with Rick and a good friend, Tony Hopson Sr. from SEI. Dr. Burns is going to give us an update about town halls, COVID, and vaccines. We're going to do some celebrating and then plenty of time for questions. So looking forward to it today. Without further ado, I'm going to kick it over to Rick.
I just wanted to let everybody know that Larry is having some unexpected surgery today. And so please keep him in your thoughts and prayers for a successful surgery and a speedy recovery. And then also, I think we've got some new folks calling in today, joining us from St. George, Utah, the Ovation Nation, where we anticipate opening our first Ovation senior housing community here in the next month or so. So I want to welcome that team. So moving on, it's my pleasure and honor to introduce a very good friend of mine, Tony Hopson. And I've got some notes here, and I want to stick to those notes to make sure that I'm doing justice to Tony and the great organization that he's built. And we're very fortunate to have you here with us today, Tony. So Tony Hopson Sr. founded Self Enhancement, Inc., SEI, in 1981. I'm sure many of you have heard of this wonderful organization. SEI is a one-stop resource for youth and families, primarily African Americans and others seeking culturally responsive services. Get this, SEI supports over 16,000 students and families every year in their organization. Incredibly, some 96% of the high school students that are part of SEI graduate every year in the Portland area primarily. And over the years, Tony and his team have secured over $500,000 of scholarship for their college scholarships for their students. It's probably not a surprise. Tony's been recognized with many awards, including the State of Oregon's Gold Schmitty Award, the Urban League of Portland's Equal Opportunity Award, and the Albina Ministerial Alliance's Bridge Builder Award. Before we start asking Tony some questions and learning from Tony today on this very important subject, I just want to say that Eric and I have known Tony and Carla for about 10 years, consider them to be very dear friends. We met Tony and Carla about, I would say 8, 9, 10 years ago at an annual SEI gala. And we were overwhelmed with the program, the impact, and the results, some of those that I just talked about. And following that initial introduction to SEI, we became engaged with them personally and professionally since then over the years. I got to tell you about a personal experience at the dinner table a few years ago. I asked Tony over dinner, I said, will you please explain to me the issues that are faced by the Black community? I've got a lot to understand and a lot to learn here, and I'm eager to go to work on that. And the first thing he said to me that kind of set me on my heels was, you'll never understand, Rick, completely. I'll do the best I can, but you will never understand because you've not walked in my shoes and you don't look like me. And like I said, I was a little put off by that. And then as Tony began to explain what he was saying to me, it began to make sense. And I'll tell you, that evening was really kind of the beginning of my and ours search to understand the differences and injustices and issues that are faced by the Black community, and an exploration of my own implicit biases. I quickly learned what Tony was saying that night with some personal experiences that happened after that. And I'll tell you that I'm not even sure that I would have recognized some of these things had not Tony taken the time to begin to explain the many issues that I just haven't understood. We had Tony and Carla over for some dinner and dancing one evening in our back. And it's as embarrassing as fun. I would say embarrassing because Tony couldn't teach me how to dance. But when we were together in our backyard, we received a call from a security company and then from the police. They were concerned that about what was going on in our house. And in front of Tony and Carla, I had to explain that we were just spending time with dear friends of ours. But because they're Black, someone was concerned, saw them at a distance. They were worried about us, and they called the police to make sure they were okay. Unbelievable. And then after that, our good friend and consultant Zanelle and her husband Dre. One Saturday afternoon, they were following us in Lake Oswego to a soccer game on a Saturday morning. We were driving down the street. We were right in front of Zanelle and Dre. And in my rearview mirror, a police officer passed us. And lo and behold, for no purpose, the police did a U-turn and started following Zanelle and Dre. Followed them right into the parking lot of the grade school and middle school that we were going to go see the game at, and continued to watch Zanelle and Dre until I walked up and welcomed them. And then the police officer drove away. One last experience that I want to share with you is, again, involving the wonderful Zanelle and Dre. There was a wonderful wedding that they had at our home. And you've probably guessed it, on the day of the wedding, we received another call from the police department because we had several neighbors who were worried. They had seen some Black people walking down the street in our neighborhood, and they were concerned about it and called the police, and the police called us to make sure we were okay. And again, we had to explain there was a beautiful wedding going on for some very good friends of ours. So folks, we've got some work to do. Those are just some stories that I wanted to relay personally. And so with that, Tony, I just wanted to say thank you for joining us today. You're really busy. We're lucky to have you. If it's okay, Tony, if I've done an okay job introducing you, can I start off by asking you some questions?
But by all means, you've done a great job. I mean, I'm not sure what I could add to what you just covered.
Oh, a lot. So here's the first question. And I think you're aware, here at Avamere, we're celebrating Black History Month with the theme being the Black family, representation, identity, and diversity. It not only resonates with your values as a family man, Tony, but also the mission of the incredible work that you do at SEI. So can you start off by, can you walk us through your mission when you first founded SEI way back in 1981?
Great. Well, Rick, first of all, let me just say thank you. I appreciate the opportunity to share. And, one of the things I learned early on is that as good as we are in our services, we certainly can't do it alone. So Avamere has been a true partner over the years. So I really appreciate you and all the employees of Avamere providing that support because it's very, very needed. And believe me, we are using it in a lot of very efficient ways. So I appreciate that. In terms of the mission, I would say in short, the mission is about, helping kids and families reach their full potential. And that's what we think about first and foremost. But in doing so, if I look at where we started in SEI, it was around a youth development program and trying to provide camps for young kids to show them how to transfer skills that they learn in sports back to the classroom. But we quickly learned that, I have a saying, you show me an at-risk kid I'd say follow that kid home and I'll show you some at-risk adults. We really don't have a youth problem in America. We have an adult problem in America. And just think about the world as we see it right now. You think about politics and all of the things that are going on, that if you're a kid growing up looking at what adults are doing and saying these days, man, you're kind of lost. You don't know who to follow right now. So we recognize that servicing the entire family was necessary. A lot of folks talk about education in schools and what happens inside the school with teachers, administrators, et cetera. We believe the education actually started at home, and it includes an entire community, and then it shows up at the school site. So servicing the entire family and making sure that whoever that kid is going home to is getting some services as well, so that they could be better parents for their own children. So from a mission standpoint, it started with kids. It's grown to servicing entire families, and hopefully through creating and supporting families, you create better neighborhoods, better communities, et cetera, et cetera.
Wonderful. Tony, thank you. Okay, that leads into a second question. As we talk about the importance of Black families today in our community, I think about health equity, the disparities we're seeing, especially during the pandemic that we're currently in. As a pillar in the community, in our community, Tony, I understand SEI was one of the first local organizations to run a public COVID testing center. Can you tell us more about how SEI has supported Black families during this pandemic?
Well, I would tell you, Rick, it's really been difficult because when you're in the social service business, I mean, you deal in a lot of things that aren't good for children and families. And then you add, a pandemic to that, and it gets ugly really, really fast. A lot of folks that were kind of, right there on the edge, they fall off the edge in terms of need. But then there's also a lot of either bad information or lack of information for folks. And for us, obviously, there was early on, we recognized that, Black folks and folks of color disproportionately were coming down with COVID. And we really didn't see our state recognize that. So a number of us had to put a lot of pressure on the governor, who finally came up with some resources for SEI to do our own testing at our own facility. And we've been trying to provide as much educational information as we can. There's also a lot of folks of color, specifically Black folks, who don't want to be tested because of, this historical side of what has happened to Black people being used as guinea pigs, basically, around testing. So trying to get that information to folks to understand that this time around, taking the test is a necessary thing. So we've also distributed well over $1 million of CARES funding into our community with our families, helping them take care of rent, food. I mean, we've been involved with almost 10 different food pantries to get food out to folks. Just a number of things. Gift cards. I mean, the pandemic was going on around Christmas, so we were providing opportunities for our kids to take advantage of Christmas, Halloween. We were out traveling, providing Halloween bags for kids, Chromebooks, given the fact that so many of our kids did not have them. Sometimes the schools provided them, sometimes they didn't. So just a whole cadre of support services that grew immensely during the pandemic. But we tried to take the lead on that. And right now we're in conversations trying to determine now the vaccine side and how do we make sure that our clients and folks of color, first of all, understand the need, and then secondly, have access to the vaccine.
Very good. Okay, ready for another one, Tony?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about real, authenticity.
Yeah.
So, true allyship goes beyond words. Tony, you know this, and requires true action for it to be authentic, to enact change. So can you tell us today, what are some ways you believe organizations and individuals, for example, Abner, can support and advocate for the Black community and change making organizations like SEI?
If I would to be totally transparent and real, I would start with, first and foremost, I think folks need to be less judgmental. Get to know Black folks. I mean, if you don't know anybody Black and all you do is look at TV, then you have a perception of what Black folks are like or what Latino folks are like. Over the past, maybe decade or so, we get this whole concept of the young Black boy with a hood on and how scary that is to everybody. At some point, you got to stop being judgmental and get to know some other folks so that you can recognize that, I don't really care what color you are. People are just human beings, and we are more alike than we are different. Secondly, there's a standard that we have at SEI that we talk about, standard number 5. We treasure our rich culture, and we hold the cultures of all people in high regard. First and foremost, people got to get comfortable with who they are so they can then reach out to other cultures and be okay with who they are as well. It takes everybody on this planet to reach and be comfortable and welcome other folks in. And, we can't always change people's heart, but if we can't change the heart, the mind is not going to get this done. At some point, what people feel in their heart has to change. So, being more real about some of those things, I think are very important. And then as non-folks of color, holding other white folks accountable to some of the racist remarks and things that they do. Either you're a part of the problem or you're a part of the solution. And oftentimes, I've had, my own white friends who question this and say, well, God, if I hold them accountable, I'm kind of be pushed aside or pushed to the point to where I don't have any friends. But if we're going to change what's happening out here, we have to be willing to stand up and hold people accountable when they're absolutely wrong, whether they're our friends or not. And then one specific action oriented is providing options and opportunities. I think one of the biggest differences in folks who make it and those who don't is one, being supported in a way that when you fall, you will get up and somebody can help you get up and tell you that you're all right, tell you that I love you and you're going to be okay. But the next piece is providing options and opportunities for kids. Poor children, I don't care whether you're Black, white, or purple. If you don't have options and opportunities in front of you, you may never, ever find your gift. And we're convinced that every child on the planet has a gift. The challenge is making sure that we can provide as many options as possible to help that child find their gift. And if we can do that, we can help them be successful. I use an example sometimes. I tell folks we can stand in our parking lot and on a clear day, we can see Mount Hood. But if any of you ski, tell me how many Black people you see on Mount Hood. Black folks don't ski. But if we provide that option to Black kids, we may have the next Olympic skier right in our midst. They may take to that. They may get inspired by that. But if they're never given that opportunity, that will never occur for them. Then obviously, sometimes there's some volunteer efforts that we have in SEI right now during COVID. That's not really happening. And then providing actual resources. So all of those are things that I think if you care enough and want to get involved, that's the way to do it. First and foremost, take care of what you think and what you feel and begin to reach to folks that don't look like you and expect it to be good as opposed to expecting it to be bad. And then obviously, actually providing support, options, opportunities, all of those things can make a real difference long term.
Oh, that's wonderful. Tony, we're getting short on time. I wish we had a lot more time today, but let me just end up with one, with all the great results you've been getting, and it's not just this year or last year. We're talking about 30 years of consistent, excellent impact and results. You've had a hard time getting support from, for example, government and agencies to consistently support your proven track record. Has that improved at all for you and SEI?
Yeah, actually, we're actually celebrating our 40th anniversary this year, 2020.
40th, sorry.
Yeah, started.
I can't add.
It's okay. Yeah, the government side has gotten better, especially right now. when you had Black Lives Matter and the pandemic, we all saw, kind of an influx of money. It's short-lived. We don't expect that to continue, but government money isn't always good money. Because it's often restricted. So if the government is giving you money, they're giving you money to do a very specific thing, and they're holding you accountable to that specific effort. So for us, the government funding has increased. What has decreased over the years is unrestricted dollars that we might get, say, from a corporation, foundation, and individuals. When it's unrestricted, then it gives us the opportunity to take those resources and provide direct services where it's needed. And government funding doesn't always allow us to do that. So things have been good and bad. The pandemic brings us a lot of heartache and pain, but I'm one of those that always sees the glass half full. So I see options and opportunities and doors opening now based on what has happened with the pandemic, being more creative. I mean, we were an agency that was already thinking about the digital divide and how many of our students couldn't take advantage of it. Parents don't know nothing about it. So this kind of pushed us forward and forced us, to get into the digital world, to get into the virtual world. So we feel good that we were forced to do that, because that is the wave of the future, regardless of how many folks that we've actually lost and some of the negatives that come with it. We're hoping that we'll come out on the other side better prepared for our future.
All right. Tony, thanks for all you're doing. Thanks for the impact that you're having. Thank you for the impact you've had on me and my family. And we're looking forward to seeing you again soon, you and Carla. And as long as the good Lord will allow us, we're going to continue to support your wonderful organization and celebrate all of your success.
Well, Rick, I appreciate it. Thanks again for having me. Last thing I'll leave you with is from an old song that says, "People make the world go round." So
Yeah.
if we want to change what's going on, each of us as individuals have the opportunity to do our part to make that a reality. Appreciate it, Rick. You guys have a good one.
Thank you, Tony.
Thank
Tony.
you.
All right, thanks.
Wow.
Appreciate it.
Love that.